So my name's Jason, and I am here to talk today about some key strategies for maximizing the impact of flex periods. And really effectively, what we're going to talk about today is some best practices and some workflows and some tips to managing and organizing, flex periods on campus, increasing the efficiency, maximizing the time efficiency of flex periods, and going through things like that. And I always like to start when we start talking about flex periods is that setting the right expectation around, what you can do and what you can't do. And this is just in talking with hundreds of schools, mostly high schools, around running flex periods on campus or advisory periods, or basically any period where there's flexible schedule and some element of choice involved, is that no matter what school we talk to, how long they've been doing it, if it's their first year or their fifth year of running flex activities and flex periods on campus, is that these processes, these flexible periods in the calendar are a lot of work. They are a lot of work for admin, they're a lot of work for teachers, and even in some cases, a lot of work for students. And I think it's important to set the right expectation that, that's just part of having an ever-evolving and shifting schedule option available in your calendar, is that, it's going to take a lot of work to organize and manage and reconcile and track down students that are missing assigned or chosen activities. And anytime you introduce so much variability in the schedule and on campus, there's a lot of opportunities for students to unintentionally or intentionally slip through the cracks. And so it's always great to have that baseline. We talk to hundreds of schools, and if you're feeling sometimes overwhelmed with your flex period, don't be concerned. I have yet to talk to a high school running a flex period or a flex time in their schedule that gets on and just says, hey, you know what, we've got it nailed and it's running smoothly and everything's great. So everybody feels overwhelmed at times with these, and that just seems to be par for the course. So let's dive in a little bit. A little quick introduction of Minga and where we fit into this. We at Minga, we make a campus management platform, and we kind of call it your one-stop shop for everything outside of your regular classroom schedule. We focus on three primary areas: safety and security on campus, behavior and behavior management, as well as student engagement and community. And our flex period kind of runs across, our new flex time module runs across all three gamuts. We got into the space of flex time because we just saw a huge increase in our customers that were exploring or looking at options to running flex time on campus. And in talking to a whole bunch of schools around flex time on campus, there were kind of three or four main areas of concern that main challenges of schools when we talk to them regularly about running flex time activities and flex time periods. And those were kind of in broken into three categories, or even time areas of them on campus. And the few things that we noticed that were very challenging, right out of the gate, it was just kind of the organizational structure of the flex time, having a platform or a super Google sheet, whatever it was, but something that gave an overarching structure to the flex time period in the first place. And then walked everyone through a repeatable and efficient process of managing those flex time activities from the beginning of making it very clear for students and staff to see when flex time periods were scheduled, what activities were available, especially for students. Then a very easy way to manage the hierarchy of assigning students to places that they were supposed to be, and then for students that weren't assigned to something, letting those students register for places that they wanted to be. So that's kind of even before the flex period starts. And then when the flex period starts, the biggest, probably the number one thing that bubbles to the top of everyone's concern list is that students don't necessarily have a clear idea of where they're supposed to be. And they can take that as an easy opportunity to meander and wander the hallways for that period. Because if they don't have to put a ton of effort into finding out where they need to be, well, then they have a great excuse to kind of go and wander around the hallways to places where they should, without ever really diving into where they should be. And in that situation, making it very easy for teachers to see at a glance where a student should be. And then lastly, of course, is once that's all said and done and we finally have everyone where they do need to be, making it easy to take attendance so that we can reconcile that everyone showed up to where they should be or who didn't show up to where they should be or where they were supposed to be. So dropping through those, our new flex time module kind of walks through the process of this and provides a ton of structure and a very consistent, reliable workflow for how this all works. At the beginning, an administrator, your flex time administrator, whoever's running that on campus, if it's an assistant principal or even a staff member that is assigned with the task of managing the flex time periods on campus, creates the flex time period schedule. And so they go and they basically just create a calendar that has all of the flex time periods available in it and gives some a little bit of configuration to each of those flex time periods. Once that's done, then teachers or staff members, basically any staff member on campus, including admins, can come in and make activities available during that flex period. And that could be a combination of, tutorials, makeup exams, remediation periods, detentions, all sorts of things can be made available during that period. And those flex time options or flex time activities that are available during that period will be then available for students to participate in. So once that's done, then administrators and teachers can assign students to activities that they have to be at. And this can be, there's a number of different reasons that this could be the case. It could be a detention period. It could be based on grade point average to places they need to be. It may be on demand. But basically, it's a situation where a teacher or an admin is saying to a student, you have to be at this activity during this flex time period. Then optionally, depending on how you structure your flex time periods, for students that are still available or have not been assigned to something they have to be at, they can then register for activities they want to be at. And so that could be, fun activities or whatever else. And once again, you can determine exactly what the structure is on what students are given that choice versus what students might be pre-assigned to something. But that does work on the hierarchy. Students that are assigned by an administrator or a teacher cannot override that assignment. They, of course, have to follow the assignment based on staff, and then students that are available can register. Once that all happens, of course, before the flex time period even starts. And then once the flex time period starts, or just before it anyways, let's make it very easy for everyone to see exactly where they're supposed to be and make it effective and efficient for them to get there because they know where they're going and there's tons of clarity around where everyone should be during that period. And then let's make it very simple for the staff member running that activity to check students in and take attendance in real time based on, right up to the date on who's been registered or assigned to those activities. So walking through that with a few tips. So step number one is just planning and scheduling flex time periods. And when you're setting up your flex time period schedule, it's pretty straightforward. You only have a few options, but basically you're going to give it a title, give it a descriptive title that's going to help make it easy at a glance so that people don't necessarily need to look too much into the date or the time. In this example, it's just called Flex Monday, and that would be for like a reoccurring Flex Monday activity that we have. And you're going to put in the date and the start and end time, as well as just 3 setting options. And that is, can teachers and staff add activities to that flex time period? Can teachers and staff make student changes? That means, can they assign or change students to where they're assigned to those activities? And then the last setting is that for students where it's available, can they register to activities or make changes to their registration? So that's it, pretty straightforward. Not a ton of settings, and really the only settings are kind of who has permissions to do what within that activity. Once that's done, you can go ahead and create all your activities, or sorry, all your flex time periods. Our recommendation and best practices is you're doing this typically 4 to 6 weeks in advance. So obviously, we don't need to schedule for the whole year. The whole point of a lot of flex time activities is that you're making adjustments to what's available during those periods based on demand and need. So you don't need to schedule for the whole year. In this case, you could set up your flex time periods for the whole year, but we find that like lots of these settings might change on a flex time period by period basis. So 4 to 6 weeks in advance, that gives everyone a lot of chance to plan and make things available going forward. Once that's done, it's very easy and at a glance for administrators and teachers to see the flex time schedule. It shows up in a few different ways for everyone. This is a screenshot from the flex time manager, which just shows you very quickly, your flex time periods in chronological order, as well as some high level information. This is an administrator view for flex time of, the number of activities available during that flex time period. If you have the ability to add, as an administrator, you can also make, make activities available as well. So as an admin, just because you're the flex time admin, you can still have your own activities available during that period. And then you can see some high level registration data. So that's really just at a glance, and a lot of this is reflected on the dashboard as well, but we can see of the total number of students available to register for this, how many are assigned or registered to activities right out of the gate. And then a little tip here, as we'll cover this off a little bit later, you'll notice a clone button. And this gives you the ability to clone a completely configured flex time period and replicate it multiple times in your calendar. And I'm going to show you how that works, but that can save you a ton of configuration time. So yeah, that's real quick at a glance. It's just setting up those flex time periods. And I see a question that says, why didn't I turn on students can register? It's just the screenshot that was taken for this presentation slide. Generally speaking, that can be turned on or off. So it's not really anything specific here, but usually for a flex time period like this, yeah, you typically would have that turned on. Although there are lots of cases where you might turn it on Monday, and students have until Wednesday to make their choice, their registration choice, and then for a Friday flex time period. And then on Wednesday, you can turn that off so students can no longer make changes. And that way, everybody's kind of fixed into what they're going to be doing on Friday. So great question. So there we go. We've got our flex time schedule all set up. And as you can see here, I've got, kind of a week in advance here. I can see all my flex time activities available for the upcoming week, as well as the number of activities and everything here at a glance. So once that's done, we're going to add activities to our flex time periods. And this opens up the options. You can determine who can add activities to your flex time periods, but we make this kind of easy in a few ways. The first thing you're going to do is create an activity template. So as a staff member, I'm going to create a template that I can reuse all the time in multiple periods. So it's just to make it more efficient. I could, if I'm a math teacher, I could have a default template for a makeup exam. I could have a default template for a follow-up seminar or tutoring session. Or if I'm, a math teacher, but I also like to play, soccer, I'm a aspiring soccer star math teacher, then occasionally if the option's available, I could also offer a soccer workshop outside as an alternative or a physical activity flex time offering. So I'd create those those templates up front, and here we can create lots of settings to kind of manage the availability and options of my flex time activity. And a couple of important ones there, of course, I'm going to define the type of activity that it is, but a few important settings. I can make the number of seats available for my activity. So if I want to limit this down to 30 people, I can make it I can configure 30 seats available. And as soon as they're assigned or by other staff members or by me, as soon as those are filled up, or by students registering, then this activity will no longer be available. It will be closed for registration. Oops. There we go. And you'll see down here, I can also have a couple settings. If, let's say, for example, this is a detention class, well, I probably don't want students signing up for my detention, so I can actually disable the ability for students to register, and now the only way for students to get into this activity will be if they're assigned by an admin or a student. And lastly, I can also limit the students that are available to register for this. So an easy example back to that math skills is maybe I'm only making this available to all the students on campus that are part of Math 11 or are members of my math class. So when I turn that on, I'm going to have options to either upload lists of students, select students, or even choose from predefined rosters of students, class rosters, or other lists that I might want to make this activity only available to. So once I create my activity templates, I'll see a list of those templates. I can edit those here as well, including the number of students will show me in real time during my activity view how many students are registered for a particular activity based on the total seat limit. And then I can make those activities available to any flex time period. So the flex time administrator has to create the flex time period first, and then once that's available, as a staff member, I can make my activities available for those periods. And once again, if you're following that best practice, I can be doing that 4 to 6 weeks in advance, including assigning students and all that stuff. I can, have lots of time to plan and make sure I have some good structure around that flex time period in my activities. So once I've done that, then it comes down to just the process of assigning students to a flex. So it's pretty straightforward. Teachers, once again, depending on how this is configured, teachers can assign, or flex time managers can assign students to any activity based on their feedback on where they need to go. Usually once again, the best practice process here is that administrators have the option to assign students to flex time activities based on demand, and then teachers can assign students to their own flex time activities. But you can set that up in a few different ways. And this is really about making sure that students that are, that you want to be or that need to be at certain activities are pre-assigned in advance so they know where they're going. And so they'll see, students will get notifications when they are assigned to an activity, and it will show up very easily on their flex time schedule right under student tools when they're logged in. So it's really easy for them to see where they're supposed to be, and it's very easy to assign students. Once again, when you click on the students, you'll notice this is a staff or admin view of some activities available during Flex Monday. I can click on the green students box to assign students, and that same people finder from before is going to pop up, and that gives me options based on pre-configured lists, or I can search for students by name or ID number, anything like that. And it's also the same place during flex time that I will click check-in to check students into their activity and take attendance based on my registered group. And a little quick tip here that we see from, to really create some operational efficiency in your flex time period is you can, create a default flex time period that has maybe homerooms or where all the students are pre-assigned, pre-registered for their homerooms, or to a bunch of default activities. And you can create a complete default structure of a flex time period so that if nobody did anything, that means if staff didn't make any changes, if they didn't make any activities available, or if students didn't, just forgot about it and chose not to register for anything, or make any changes to it, that everyone would have a home based on the default. And that could be, like I said, maybe based on homeroom. And their homeroom teachers have default activities available that are homeroom makeup, and then all of the students are default registered, pre-registered for those homerooms. And why that's helpful is that if you end up in a situation where nobody has made any changes or a group of people haven't made changes, everyone has a place where they're supposed to be. And if you remember back to that clone button, we can create this default flex time schedule, this default flex time structure, and then we can just clone it for all of our flex time periods so that we have a default where everyone has a home and everyone knows where they're supposed to be, and then give staff and students the options to make changes to those. And it can really make the process more efficient. It can make it less of a mad scramble the day before or the hour before or the 10 minutes before a flex time period, when you're looking at a list and you're seeing that there's 440 kids that still haven't registered for an activity and they don't have a home to be. So it can make that process a lot easier and really just save a lot of that last minute hassle of looking at a huge list of students that don't have a home at the moment. And so that's a little tip that we have. It's very easy to do in Minga, because you can create that default structure once and then clone it a number of times and set it up so that staff and or students can make changes based on pre-registration. So now that we've assigned students to places that they're supposed to be, then based on your setup of the period, if we have options for students to register for activities, then any students that's not registered or that's not pre-assigned to an activity for a flex time period will have the freedom to register for something that they want to. And this is an example of under student tools, under their flex time, they can see their schedule very, very simple, very easily based on the time period and the names of those flex time periods. And they'll just see a big option for register for activity if that's something that they are supposed to be at, or if they're pre-assigned to something, then they'll see that activity set up during that flex time period. And here on Thursday, August 31st, they are pre-assigned to bubble soccer with Camilla Home, that's their teacher, and they'll see a sign with a little lock icon indicating that they can't make changes to that. But for Thursday, July 13th and Thursday, July 20th, they have the option to register for activities. So when they click on that registration button, they'll get a list of all the activities available for them to register during that window. So that's really all of this is happening before your flex time period even starts. Ideally, a day or more before your flex time period starts. And a couple of common examples that we see is that if you run 3 flex time periods a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that Monday would be an opportunity to, for teachers to assign students for Wednesday and Friday, or for students to register for those for activities on Wednesday and Friday. And they're taking some of that flex time period during the week to use that time to manage and set up and pre-register and get everyone allocated to places for the remainder of the week. So that's just some best practices that we see, or some examples of what we see people do. But it does definitely seem to be that, allocating some assigned time to managing the rest of the week has a pretty good success and correlates strongly to getting the most time out of flex time. Of course, you are using some time to get it done, but then maybe everyone goes to homeroom on Mondays and they pick what they're doing for the rest of the week or for 2 weeks in advance. But that does seem to have a lot of success correlated with it. So students would pre-register or could register for activities, but once again, this place under student tools is also a place where it's always really easy for them to see where they're supposed to be, or when they're not registered for something. So once we, that now, of course, it's getting down to the time where now the flex time period is running, and it's the beginning of flex time period. Students are going to click on, log into student tools, look on flex time, and they're going to see, oh, it's Thursday, I'm supposed to be at bubble soccer. So off to bubble soccer they go. It tells them the location as well, so they know exactly where they're supposed to go. And from a staff view perspective, they're able to see on the dashboard, well, this would be an admin view. So in real time, we can see very easy on the dashboard. This is an example of 2 flex time periods running during the day. I'm going to call that advanced user. You know, if you're brand new to flex time, hopefully you're just running 1 a day and maybe even 2 or 3 per week. But we definitely see advanced users where they are running sometimes multiple flex time periods in the same day. And we have a couple even more extreme than that we've seen as examples. But yeah, I would ultra advanced, you know, level user stuff, getting into multiple flex time periods in a day. And if you are running that and you're running it successfully, I mean, kudos to you. You must have some amazing structural process in place. And so here we can see 2 flex time periods available for today. And by selecting that down under the periods, I can also see all the activities that are available, as well as at a glance information around students that are registered, how many students are registered, students that aren't registered. And then in real-time data, we'll also see students that are checked in and not checked in. So these are all buttons as well. So if it's coming up to a flex time period and you'll see, oh, I still have 10 students not registered, you can click on that and find out very quickly who those 10 students are. And right from that report, click on a register button or an assign button to assign them to an activity right from there, so that you are sure everyone is assigned. And then of course, the check-in is, our check-in functionality is that flexible attendance component, which allows you to reconcile attendance for those periods. So we can see at a glance, you know, what's going on for our flex time. These are always daily views. Our dashboards are always daily views. And so, you know, that's really admin and staff can be leveraging this too, but staff will usually be on their activities tab, which is just looking at the activities they have available today. They don't necessarily need to be too concerned with the overall flex time period. And from that case, now when it comes to checking students in at the end of the day, as a staff member, when I'm running a flex time activity, I'm just going to click on that check-in and I'm going to get a list of all the students available during that check-in period. And I can do positive or negative based attendance, no matter what I want. I can select all and deselect people, or I can select none and select people that are there, and I assign them that check-in. But depending on how you know the scale and how many people you want to check into activities, we can also integrate, and you'll see here, I can enable a barcode scanner or even use the camera on a mobile device and a laptop, but the laptop cameras can be a little finicky. The cameras on mobile devices work really, really great, and students can check in using their printed or their digital ID built right into Mingo. So that those scanners can really make the process efficient for checking students in large numbers into flex time activities. But if it's a small number, you can do it just like, you know, here's, I've got 6 people, very easy for me to check everyone in for that period, just based on the check-in function here. And that's going to come back to updating my dashboard as students are checked in. That's going to update my dashboard in real time. So as an admin, I can monitor, you know, everyone who's checked in as well as the students that aren't checked in. And once that's done, I mean, then it's just coming back, and at a glance, I can then, you know, I have really easy accessible data on everyone who has checked in for activities. It's very easy for me to see students that were absent. So, and you'll see that that's going to come right from the dashboard here too, but I have follow-on reports and historical data for everyone that was absent for these periods. And I can also export lists. If I want to, I can export attendance lists that can then be uploaded into your student information system to a, say, master schedule, so that you have integrated attendance data for your flex time periods. And Mingo will handle it all on a per activity basis. And then, because of course those activities are changing, so your attendance system, your student information system is unlikely to support the variability of where those students are checking in or who they're checking in with. But we can give you one master list for the period that you can then upload for attendance, so you can still reconcile and do state reporting for your attendance data and link it all together. And that's right under the reports tab here in Mingo. So that's the basics of running a flex time activity period here. And just kind of covering that process again, just a quick review on that process, scrolling all the way back up to the top here, is first make your period available, then have staff make activities available during that period. That's now the schedule for our flex time period. Then administrators and teachers can assign students to places they have to be, and that is done hierarchically. So admins can assign students, and then teachers can assign students, but they can't override an admin assignment. And then teachers can't change each other's assignment. So that way a teacher knows that if they've assigned someone or an admin's assigned someone, they are locked into that place. Then anyone who's not assigned, students have the option to register to activities that they want to be at or that they feel they need to be at based on their needs and choices. Probably, you know, where I think Minga really shines and makes it super easy here is that during the time, it's so easy for everyone to see where they're supposed to be, or for a teacher to see where the student's supposed to be. So when they wander up to your classroom and they're like, oh, I think I'm signed up for this today, and you're looking on your registration and you don't see them, it's very easy for you to click on the student and see where they're supposed to be and search for that student and tell them where they're supposed to be to send them in the right direction. If you do have students showing up on demand and they are not assigned to something or pre-registered, you can register them and check them into your activity in real time. So that's an option available, but generally speaking, you're going to have the ability to look really easily for a teacher to see where they're supposed to be. And then give reports for administrators and teachers to easily reconcile attendance, and especially at the admin level, to see overarching views on participation and attendance in activities, reconcile that up into your student information system or your attendance system very easily, and then use that data to make adjustments so that your flex time activities and your flex time periods are more efficient. So that's a brief overview, a quick overview with a few tips and tricks. Those couple of those best practices, tips and tricks that we see once again. The big one, this is a big one, is creating a default template for a period where everyone is pre-registered and teachers have default activities available can be a huge help, especially if you're new to flex time and your staff are just getting to learn how it works. Create a default for everyone so that staff don't feel overwhelmed, and if they're stuck or they forget or they just don't know what to make available, everyone has a default place to be. That is a huge help. And then number two is the other tip, and that is well, I mean, related, of course, is just that pre-registration and making it easy for everyone and adjusting from there. So we've got a few minutes here for Q&A. Thanks again for your patience at the beginning. But if you want to throw questions up onto the question board, I've got a few there waiting. I'm happy to answer them and cover off things. As a quick follow-up, we're spending a lot of time with hundreds of schools across the US in working through best practices and supporting them on setting up flex time and getting flex time running this year. If you'd like to learn more, please don't hesitate just to head over to our website at www.minga.io and click on the Get a Demo, and we'd love to sit down with you, spend half an hour together, learn about what you're trying to do, show you a little bit about what we do, and then also, just share some best practices that we hear from lots of other schools. And we'll continue to update our blog posts with best practices and work and guides and sheets that aren't even specific to our product, just general best practices in running Flex. So once again, that's at minga.io, and just click on Get a Demo. So I have a question up here from Michelle that says, can we pull from a database to set up the templates? Yeah, I mean, Michelle, I would probably need a little more clarity, and there might be some specifics and some devils and some details on exactly what database you mean. But generally speaking, yes, you could export from templates. Say from Skyward, you could export, your list information and then upload those to get started for creating templates. So that you have all your student lists available per staff. I'm not going to lie, the setting up the first default template is a little bit of work. You can probably allocate yourself a couple of hours of time to make sure that's done properly, and you've kind of filled in the holes, because there's going to be some cracks, there always is. But then once that's done, cloning is very easy, so you're going to get all that time back by cloning them for the next 6 weeks. But short answer is, Michelle, yes, you can you can pull list from Skyward and import them into Minga. And Chris says, if we only have ID Hall Pass Manager, would we have to upgrade to add flex time? So, Chris, great question. A little bit, Minga is a modular-based system. Chris, reach out. Right now, flex time is an add-on because it uses check-in and community and a bunch of other functions. It's an add-on to the Minga bundle. We're making some changes into the way the whole system works from a modular-based perspective. So Chris, please reach out or set up a time. You can follow the same process. You'll just get assigned right to your account manager, and we can walk through exactly what that looks like for you. Question from Omar says, I missed the first part of the webinar. Is this currently active? I think, Omar, do you mean is the product live? If that's the case, then yeah, we just released our second update to the FlexTime module, and the FlexTime module is available, and we released that in the summertime. So yep, it's up and running and available. We can also, for anyone that's currently a Minga customer, we can also turn this on as a trial. So you can enable the FlexTime activity as a trial platform. There are some very cool updates coming. One of the great parts about having a customer base to work with, and once again, I mean, just share my gratitude for the schools that we get to partner with as we build this, because they're so helpful, is we're learning on the fly too. Like, we don't pretend to be the expert at all of this. So we are learning on the fly. We're seeing how this is used in practice, taking feedback both from customers and schools in real time, as well as through our customer council program, and integrating it in. So, we have some really neat things coming with integrating FlexTime into our behavioral modules so that you can actually pre-assign students to remediation activities, and also mark those remediation or those consequences as completed automatically when they check into their FlexTime activity appropriately. So some really neat stuff coming, integrations and connections, as well as we see opportunities to integrate this into things like points and rewards, where you can use points for particular FlexTime activities or redeem points for things. Tying it into our whole community framework as a whole. So lots of really neat stuff coming on the FlexTime side. We will continue to learn and improve the product and make updates and releases on a regular basis. So thank you all for everyone that's contributed so much time as well to getting this product out. We're very excited to release it. My apologies to anyone we definitely had some snafus with our webinar set up this morning. So for anyone that came late or got a late link, our sincere apologies, and we will make this recording available to everyone as well. So thank you all so much for your time today. Kind of finishing off, if you have any questions or would like to learn more, just hop onto our website at minga.io and click get a demo, and we would love to sit down and chat with you and learn more about what you're doing or what you're hoping to do. So signing off, I'm Jason with Minga. And thank you all for your time. Have a wonderful Tuesday.